Hello, welcome to a new episode of It Sure Is a Podcast. Today, our topic is going to be monster catching games and everything related to that. That is probably my favorite genre ever, like that guilty pleasure, because a lot of people don't hold it in high regard, but they know it's successful. They know that like Pokemon exists, and they're like, Pokemon makes money. Ooh, I don't know if you heard that. I just cracked my spine. I listened back to the recording just to be sure everything was recording good, and I heard that. Oh, some people are going to get immense satisfaction out of that sound, and other people are going to be disgusted, and I apologize if you're in that group. And today is a very off-the-cuff episode, because I just worked in a row 4 10-hour days, and then I'm like, I only work 40 hours. I'm salaried. So I'm sitting there looking at my work. I'm like, I have Friday off. And my boss was like, but you have to. I'm like, I only do 40 hours. If you want to pay me overtime, then you believe I will be there working. But I hit 40 hours, so we done. So I'm tired. Like, I slept in for the first time in my, like, forever this morning. I woke up, and it was, like, close to 10 a.m., and I never do that. I'm always up at 7, running around, getting the grind done. And, like, I just woke up super late. I slept in. Also, I mean, it could be my jaw. So your boy Brandon here is falling apart. I have this tooth in the back of my mouth that has been just split, like, down the middle into, because a long time ago, when I worked at the movie theater, we had this candy machine that was installed. It was the coolest thing. I go in there and I'm like, okay, what are my options? So you get some nerds, you pick out the candies and it just dispenses them into a tub and it just gives you some portioned amounts. And I got some nerds, I got some chewy things and gobstoppers. And then I saw like they had chewy gobstoppers. I'm like, yes, I love that. So I hit the button on the machine, it pours it in. So I could go back into, I used to sell tickets, so I go back into where I was, selling tickets. It was pretty slow that day. So I call the other person and I'm just like, hey, man, I'm just going to step in the back, eat some candy. He's like, yeah, that's cool. Don't worry about it. So I go back there and I like, oh, this is a chewy gobstopper. And I like held 3 in my hand. And I was like, oh, okay, these are all chewy gobstoppers because they're all the same color. And I got, those 3 and it all looked the same. So I pop those in my mouth and I just decide in my dumb brain to just bite down. And dude, like, I bit down on, of course, a real gobstopper and my tooth just shattered, split down the middle, like the whole root came out. It was bad. It was really, really bad. And now, like, after so long of it not really being bothered, I guess now it's being bothered, probably now. I don't know, it being exposed for so long now, reaching the roots. So whenever I like drink something cold or like something gets stuck in there, my whole jaw just throbs in pain. You're thinking, yeah, I should probably go to a dentist. I mean, I believe you, I should go to a dentist, but at the same time, I'm just kind of like, my insurance is super weird because we got bought out by this other bigger $1 million, billions, and billions tycoon. And now I'm just kind of like, I don't know what to do because it's confusing. So that's why there's a little hesitation on that. So, getting on to the real stuff, the real meat and potatoes of today, which I already started talking about monster catching games. You know that I've talked about developing my own, and almost a new breath of life has been breathed into it because I've completed the designs and I completed the typing chart and I've been putting them in, and some monsters gotta go. Some monsters gotta stay. Some monsters need to be made to fit the typing, if that makes sense. So, what I got here is typing for Sprouters. If you've never listened to the podcast, Sprouters has been something I've been working on since probably the beginning of COVID, honestly. So, almost a year. And I've been on and off with it, just given work, life. It's all been in the development process, the brainstorming part. And this is super important because a lot of people sit there who want to make games and wonder, how do they make games? How do they do that? And at the end of the day, you realize, oh, wait a minute. they make games, there's a development process where everything is laid out, the skeleton's laid out, and even you put some muscles on there, and then you go like, okay, so this is what I want for the title screen, I make the title screen. All right, this is what I want for the opening, I make the opening, and you go through that. It's different for everybody, but developing it and putting it together is the biggest thing you have to do. And for the longest time, I didn't really notice that or realize that. But now that it's kind of clicked in my head, I've been just toiling away and just getting stuff done in regards to that. And before we go any further, I'm looking at the blanket across the room. I apologize that the quality is not as stupendous as our last episode with our first guests, which I really enjoyed that. I thought that was a fantastic episode. It was fun. Talked about some stuff, got some other nerds' opinions, but now you're stuck back with me. You're stuck back with your boy. I was recording this with a blanket over my head, right? And the quality was a little better. It was a little crisper, a little cleaner. But then I was sitting there and I literally, this had never happened to me, started to get claustrophobic. Because this blanket was on my head. I'm just staring at the mic. And then it started getting warm. It started getting uncomfortable. I was like, screw it. I'm done. I ripped that bad boy off. I chucked it across the room. It's sitting over there. I'm like, all right, got to start over because I was literally getting claustrophobic. So before we dive into a little discussion on Ova Magica and monster catching games and where they're at right now, I've developed the system for the Sprouters typing. Let me obtain my paper. Boop. Okay. So what we have here, and that was the wrong paper. Get that out of my sight. Get over there. Disgust me. Okay. So we have here are the types. Spring, summer, autumn, winter, wither, and flourish. I was deciding what types to call these things. I was thinking of like plant genuses and stuff, but then trying to simplify the names and get... The thing that makes the Pokemon games memorable is that the typing is just... It's memorable because it's simple. It's simple, it gets down to the point, and games that do that benefit from it. They really do. Like, Temtem is an example where they went with a very simplified styling of their, monsters, and also simplified typing system. Now, sometimes they're... I guess I would say that their typing does not match the design of their monsters, which is a shame because here's the thing. In Pokemon, I can look at a monster, I can look at a Mons, and I can tell for the most part at least one of the types if it's a dual type. And I can tell at least for the part what type it is, right? So you have a good idea going in. Temtem honestly doesn't fully understand that completely. But also, Pokemon has really regimented us and has really driven us into a way of being taught that we're so used to because Pokemon was the only kind of monster catching game on the market. Only monster taming option that we have. Now, we're kind of entering into this time where a lot of indie developers, and I guess I would consider myself one, we're reaching this point where we've played these games all our lives and now we want to make these games. And there's such a surplus of games just popping out of nowhere that fall into the monster catching genre, right? And a lot of them really focus on the Game Boy aesthetic. And what my envisioning to kind of go for is actually more the art style of like the Scott Pilgrim game, which actually just had a re-release recently on all the major systems, the beat 'em up. Which, it's fun. It's a good time with friends, but remember, it's a beat 'em up, and beat 'em ups, alright, hot take, beat 'em ups are inherently terrible. Because how they're set up, literally, I'm working on fighting the last boss in the game. I've leveled up a character all the way that they can, and I literally got into a spot where I just kept getting stun locked, and I just kept dying at this final boss, and there was nothing I can do. And that happens in beat 'em ups a lot, and that's not fun. That's just, all right, your game's broken. And I've always thought about that, about beat 'em ups. Like, I like them, but I don't like them at the same time. I think their controls are weird, their controls are stiff, and I think you could still make a beat 'em up and have smoother controls and don't have it be so robotic. I think a lot of times developers focus on the nostalgia factor, and that's not what we need, right? Because you can make good games with that are nostalgic and have elements, but have quality of life improvements for what we're used to. Because back then, those weren't a style choice. That was a limitation of the hardware. And I just noticed that I got off on topic talking about monster catching games. And I'm talking about beat 'em ups now, but we'll roll with it. We love rabbit trails here. That was a limitation. That wasn't like, how do I put it? That wasn't like, oh, I want it to be this rigid. No, they did it that way because I mean beat 'em ups were born in the arcades and then they kind of transitioned into the home systems. I like beat 'em ups. They're good, but they're bad. It's a beautiful thing, a combination of both worlds, I guess, if you were to put it that way. So, with all that being said, and I'm gonna have to listen back and see what the heck was I talking about because I don't know what I was talking about that led me to this. Oh, the art style of Scott Pilgrim. That's the art style I like. It's very in your face, it's bold, there is shading, but it's just very memorable, honestly. A lot of people remember the Scott Pilgrim video game not because it was a beat 'em up, not because it was based off the movie that came out, not because it was based off a comic book. A lot of people remember it because of the art style, right? And they'll just look at it and be like, oh, I know that game. I've seen that game. Maybe never played it, maybe don't know what it is, but you've seen it. And you're like, that looks good. That looks like some good stuff. So that's like the style I kind of want to go for. Not as anime heavy, only, well, I mean, yeah, it's going to be inherently, it's going to end up being that because our character designs, I mean, they were revamped a little bit with the help of my good friend, and they're looking much better now. So they're going to be kind of on that side of simplified anime. And the monsters are going to be their own thing. But with the typing chart, let's go back to that for Sprouters. So the typing chart is going to be spring, summer, autumn, winter, wither, and then flourish. So spring is effective against winter, winter is effective against summer, summer is effective against spring. And my concept there was what is effective against a season is what that season turns into. So winter is effective against summer because if you were to draw a circle with spring, summer, winter on it, and then draw, spring being effective against winter, like the rock, paper, scissors thing, spring would be effective against winter because when winter ends, and I mean, if you put it this way, when it ends and dies, it turns into spring. When summer ends and dies, it turns into winter. When spring ends and dies, it turns into summer. So that was kind of my concept on that. But where's autumn? Autumn was a weird thing because it created a very strange typing situation that we kind of came across. Well, I kind of came across where you just had this giant circle. Now, I do know that Monster Crown does this. I've talked about that monster catching game in the past. It's on Steam. Please check it out. It's a beautiful, beautiful game where it is just one big circle of type advantages, and then anything that there's like vicious, relentless, vicious was changed to malicious. So there was like malicious, restless, and then there was 3 other ones. I forget the name off the top of my head. But it was just one big circle. So everything had one thing that was effective against it, and then everything else that you would attack, like across the board, wouldn't be that effective. And I thought about that because there was 5, but I went with 6 types. And autumn is the type that is like, because in seasons, autumn is kind of the time where things are dying and we're going into winter, but also there is a lot of growth in fall, and a lot of plants actually do bear fruit or, finish their entire life cycle for that season right around fall time. certain fruits will grow and they grow during the summer. And then by fall, you got some big juicy apples and all that. And that's why, apple cider and stuff like that is popular around fall because that's when the biggest harvest is. So, with that being said, autumn is a type that is not super effective against anything, but it's not weak to anything either. It has a base stat of no resistances. It's just a basic. So, I guess you would say in Pokemon it's a normal type, except it's not weak against fighting, because that's the only thing normal types are weak against, fighting type in Pokemon. So, Wither and Flourish. These two, Wither is the equivalent of the dark type in Pokemon, where these plants are dying, they are on their way out, or there's even this kind of like dark, ghostly appearance to them. That is a Wither type. And you could even compare it to like compost and rotting stuff, where it's like, yeah, that's a bunch of dead plants, but there's still growth going on there. It's creating fertilizer. And then Flourish is the last one, and that is the fairy type, or if you played like some other monster catching games, they have like the equivalent of like the light type or holy type compared to just the dark type. And what that is a plant that is just full of life and just exuding life. Now, right now, I have no plans to take these designs and do like, how do I put it? Big inhale, I think. There's no idea to take this and be like there's a summer autumn type, there's a wither or spring type. You know what, for the base monsters there is no dual typing unless it really calls for it. And with that being said, whenever you germinate seeds and create new sprouts based off of the single evolution sprouts, that is when you can get the dual typing. But by the looks of it, some of the dual typing will be really strong. They'll be glass cannons. They're super strong. But, I mean, 1 or 2 hits are probably going to be dead. But that's something I'm toying around with. And it's just been exciting to continue this process and really begin to build on things. All of the starters have actually been removed and are being redone because after doing some, I guess, test studies with general public and stuff, but people who also had an eye for Pokemon and an artistic side, they're like, nothing stands out about them. And I could understand that, because with a starter, you definitely want it to be something that stands out. Someone looks at it and they go, oh, that's such a cool starter. I want that one, right? I'm the weird guy whenever I play Pokemon that like the weird off-brand monster I see, that's the one I want. Like, I don't want the cool looking one. I want a love disc. And if you know Pokemon, you just found that incredibly offensive. But with all that being said, Sprouters has been assembling itself. I've been doing pixel art. And all right, here's a shameless plug for me. I have been starting to stream on twitch.tv/HeroicTurdman. And whenever I get really into doing a lot of this art stuff, that's where you'll find me. I'm doing a lot of pixel art on there. I'm just doing monster designs with pixel art, listening to some tunes. If anyone shows up, chat to me, be like, hey, baby, what's up? I'll be like, girl, you looking good, even though you're just a text box. But that's beside the point. And I do have a camera set up, but I don't really use it that much unless I'm playing a game with people. But I mean, just throwing that out there. If you're interested in the Twitch life, hit me up. It's a picture that I had my friend do of a caricaturized version of myself that matches the color of the anime movie Promare by Studio Trigger, or Promare, because apparently people pronounce it that way. It's like that color style. And can I get it out there that that's a really good movie? Really awesome. And also, like, during all this, like, creation time and making all these monsters and editing them, like, it's been actually super fun because I get to watch anime on my one screen and then I get to make stuff on the other screen. Pretty cool. So, all right, let's change gears. Let's switch over. Let's talk about Ova Magica. Ova Magica is paying homage to a collection of monster catching games. What are these monster catching games, you ask? Oh, glad you asked. Because you're sitting here listening to the podcast that's clearly about monster catching. Let me scroll down. I'm on the Kickstarter. Their goal is to put it on all known platforms. There will be a physical Nintendo Switch release, which I hopped on board with that because mwah, I love physical releases of games like this. Okay, so they are inspired by Stardew Valley, uh, Grandia 3, Jade Cocoon, Slime Rancher, Harvest Moon, Pokemon, Story Seasons, and then Azure Dreams. So imagine all the elements from those games, okay? All those elements, and then smash them together. So there's a big farming component, right? You farm Harvest Moon, Stardew Valley style, but also you tame and you raise the monsters. And the monsters are called blobs, and I just love it. Literally, they're just blobs. They're just blobs, and they just slap like, all right, so take a Pokemon design. Take your favorite Pokemon, you look at it, right? And then just turn it into a blob, and that's what their designs are. But it's cool. I don't know, it's fine. It's more hearkening to like Slime Rancher, but some of them are more detailed than others. So blobs are, and look at the types here. We got forest, storm, or magma type. So there's only, that's forest, storm, or magma. Actually, that's and now looking at it, that is a very strange route to go because that is grass, electric, and fire. But they probably have a system behind it. And I also thought like maybe I would form my system into a simplified just 3, right? Because I've also noticed in my journeys of studying and seeing how people make games, some people build them too big. And then the foundation is too outstretching for 1 or 2 or like a few people. So I'm looking at it from the beginning. I'm like, keep it simple. Let's keep it simple. So you arrive in Clovertown and you raise these blobs. Well, the one thing about these blobs is that like the stuff you grow on your farm is food to feed them. You have to keep them fed. So it kind of has that almost Tamagotchi thing to it. But also, I mean, you could compare it to Harvest Moon or Stardew Valley where you just go ahead and you just have blobs. No, I'm sorry. My thought went a different direction because I'm literally looking at a GIF of the farmer feeding a blob a carrot, which is literally just a cow. It's a blob with cow spots on it, but has a blob face and it's just these little little goat horns sticking out. All right, I gotta scroll away. I cannot focus. I'm just watching that and I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's adorable. So you have to feed them like they're farm animals, right? Because they're not going to perform their best if you're not feeding them. There are romance options. In Clovertown, which is where the town takes place, there is a variety of characters. Look, we got a lot of people here. Wow. A lot of people, different ethnicities. I'm probably going to assume different sexualities. No matter fancy, no matter who chose, there's elements. Okay, all right. Here is my thing. This is not a take on. It's not a bad thing. It's just something I've noticed. And I want to preface that only because a lot of people are going to find this take a little. They're like, Brandon, what are you dropping there? You being closed-minded? No. So what I notice in games like this is, especially now, in the older Harvest Moons, let's take A Wonderful Life, for example, you would always find 3 choices for wives, and there was always play as a male, or in like Harvest Moon, Another Wonderful Life, where it was the same game, but it was a girl, you had choices of 3 husbands. Okay, all right. Right, that was a different time. Here we're more inclusive, we're more safe at the podcast. So with that being said, a lot of games that come out now, they give you the option, you can have same gender relationships, and that's a beautiful thing. I love that option, right? Because even me as a straight male, sometimes I'll grab a male character and hook up with a boy or a girl and hook up with a girl, right? In these games, there's no identified sexuality for specific characters. Now, in Cyberpunk 2077, there were characters with defined sexualities. And it doesn't break immersion. I don't really have an issue with it. It's just something more that I noticed. And this is a take that some people may take the wrong way, but I hope you know that's not the case. That, like, I come to Clovertown, the place in this game, and I am just surrounded by an entire town of bi people. And it's just like, you kind of wish like there were a few characters where it's just like, okay, they have a defined sexuality. But also, does this sexuality define your character? I believe it does to a point, but also I believe you can make a character and have them go against that social norm of being, a homosexual character or a lesbian. You can go against that because our society has very strict, this is what this type of person looks like and this is what this type of person looks like. And that's not the case. Like, no. I know a lot of people who are just like, okay, that is a manly man. That man could like pick me up and break my spine clean in half. And then you find out he's gay and you're like, I would never would have thought that. And that's like, it's okay for that to be a character type. I don't know. It's not a complaint. It's just something I really noticed, that we are just surrounded on these islands full, or these like places full of bi people. And like, in my life, I don't think I know any bi people. Maybe one or two, but like not a whole town's worth. But I'm excited. Cool. Same gender relationships. That's awesome. Maybe one day I'll go to a town where everyone's bi and I'll live there forever. Now, I haven't looked completely into it. I believe that's how the system works. I don't think it would change at all because, that's easy for the developer. And I think the person listed here is Claudia the dev. And I think it's just only a girl working on this. See more. Okay. So there is like a studio and there is someone else assisting. But at the end of the day, there's only like 3 people putting time into this. There might be more. If there's a studio, there probably is. But I feel like Claudia the dev had to get it to a point where she could pitch it to someone and do a prototype such as this and have someone take interest. So moving on from all that, we got different festivals that will be in the town. There's crafting, as every game has to have now, because Minecraft has ruined our brains. And I do have a Minecraft story a little later. I think we'll hop off the... Now I'm looking, there's like home decorating and furnishing and all these just mechanics that really make this place feel alive. Now, the battle system in Ova Magica is you can send out 1 to 3 blobs in the battle at the same time. In the battle at the same time. I also found out my podcast, the more I talk, the more I start to descend in the madness. So I guess it's just by an action bar, you attack blobs. It looks very simple, but for all the stuff that's going on in this game, I really feel like, a simple battle system's fine. There's breeding mechanics. This is in depth. Okay. So there's a chart here of breeding mechanics where the breeding mechanics function as, okay, so you take that cow blob I was talking about, and you take this little purple butterfly blob with a flower in the middle of its forehead, and then you mix those two together and you get a cow blob with the eyes of the little butterfly thing with the flower on its head. Then from there, that's one potential. There's other potentials of how it could look. It takes traits from it and kind of randomizes it. And then if you take another grown blob, you can like mix that and then I think the typing will still stay the same, but like the outside look of the monster will be different, which that's cool. Expedition dungeons. They have dungeons where you can go find stuff. Yo, is there a alpha or a beta of this? Because I want in. The more I read about, the more it's right up my alley. Yeah, so there's the first Harvest Edition, which is the like physical copy, special box art, and it'll never be produced again, apparently. And all these tiers. Physical rewards. Oh, you could get a plushie cow blob. You could get some pins, keychains, postcards, sticker sheet, posters, trading card deck. Oh, I might have to go change my. Oh, I might have to go change my. Oh, this is looking too. There's a collector's tin lunchbox. And the art style is very Harvest Moon, but you just slap some blobs in there, so it's Slime Rancher. But man, oh man, this is looking so good. All right, let's see. Resident in Clovertown. I mean, and Kickstarters, they all have their things where some are super successful, and then sometimes some just steal your money. I hope this is not the case. I don't believe it will be. But I'm like looking at this, and it looks promising. There's a lot of good gameplay on there. And I think I've just spent most of a episode talking about this game, Ova Magica. In the description for YouTube and in the description for the podcast, I'll leave a link to the page for Kickstarter in case you just want to go check it out, see what it is, or just look up Ova Magica. Because I love these monster catching games and monster breeding and taming games. I love them to death. I will play them all until I am dead and in the ground. Right now, I'm currently playing Monster Sanctuary, which is a monster catching and battling game mixed with the Metroidvania. I don't like Metroidvanias, but this is good because it focused more on the monsters and less on the Metroidvania. The Metroidvania is easy to understand. And when you like see a spot and you're like, oh, all right, I can't climb up there because I don't have an extra jump, you find some items, but the monsters help you. The monsters follow you, and you can like do a double jump, and then you pull out your bird and you're like, bird, and the bird like grabs your arm and carries you a little bit extra to get on that ledge. Like, that's what's so cool about it. And the battles are more in line with, I guess, Final Fantasy, where it's like 3 monsters, and some monsters, their only job is to buff and to increase the stats of your team. And every monster has a skill tree, which is very, very cool. Monster Sanctuary is on everything, I believe. I have it on the Switch because I am an intellectual. What else do we have here, monster game-wise? Nexomon, that's always an option if you hate yourself. Nexomon Extinction. Alright, so I've been playing a little bit of it. It's hard for me to get into because of 2 things. Like, the game just screams like, we're copying Pokemon. Nothing wrong with that, but I definitely remember talking in an earlier podcast about Monster Crown being a game that is influenced by Pokemon, but is not copying Pokemon, right? There's an obvious influence, but it's doing its own stuff, and it's becoming its own flavor. And Nexomon does not do that. It's just Pokemon. And also they have this weird referential fourth wall breaking humor, which I hate. I hate that. Like, only a few games and only a few movies do it tame enough where it's not offensive to me. But usually if you have a system like that or a style like that, I hate it. I don't think there's any other monster catching games because right now there's a lot of options, but the options are coming out. Like on Steam, New Monsters just came out the other day. I got it, but I haven't sat down and played it yet. There's just a lot of options. I think a lot of people, like I said earlier, a lot of people are growing up and we're like, we played Pokemon our whole lives, but we want to take our crack at it. We want to see what we're doing. And Sprouters will happen eventually. And Sprouters is the game where you grow your monsters. But I figured out a method to kind of okay, why would you want to grow more than one monster, right? You grow the one monster and that's it. It's kind of like the catching mechanic, but with more steps. Here's the thing: whenever you catch a monster, well, you don't even catch them. Whenever you get a seed from a monster that's dropped, and every time you fight a monster, there's a percentage chance a seed will drop. You take it back to your farm, you plant it, you grow it, you raise it, it pops out. Now, it's only going to be either one level or two levels below the level you caught that monster, which is great. But also, it's going to be so when you get a monster, like in Pokemon, there's traits, and those traits will tell you, are they going to get more experience and more better stats, however you put that, in attack, defense, special attacks, like stuff like that. So there's going to be certain sprouts that have or are more inclined to have the stats that lean more towards defensive, lean more towards this. So with that, you could take that monster and be like, okay, so like this monster is going to be more of a defensive type. So what if I got a seed from this monster and then I added this fertilizer that gives a, permanent boost to defense when it's grown again, right? So then you would grow the seed and then boom, you would have a monster that's really tanky in defense. So you don't have to worry about the SVs or UVs, which is a big thing in Pokemon. If you don't understand what that is, okay, it's fine, neither do I. But it's like an option where you can really customize your team and really put in your time and effort to making a very unique party. There we go, getting back on Sprouters. So I guess we could just take a second now and just step back from the monster catching thing. We kind of talked about it. I did a review overview informing you. Oh wow. Someone just slapped $1,000 onto Ova Magica. I have the Kickstarter page sitting over here, and in real time, it'll show when money's added. And someone just slapped $1,000 Renos on it. Good for them. What was I saying? Oh, yes. So stepping back from all this, we really talked about Ova Magica, which I am very excited for. The more I looked into it, the more I got excited. There is a interview with the developer floating around on the interwebs, and I haven't been able to completely look into it. But if you look up on YouTube, Gym Leader Ed, that's the page. He does an interview with Ova Magica, the Claudia, the dev, and I haven't listened to the whole thing yet, but it's pretty interesting, her perspective and her thoughts on things. I think it's really cool. If you're interested, to give it a listen. Also, New Year's resolution, we talked about it, less YouTube. Dude, I barely go on YouTube anymore, and I'm so proud of myself, and I'm going to keep this going. What I did was just a lot of the toxic, a lot of the, click on me because I'm relevant at the moment channels. I took off my YouTube. I only have a few channels that I have subscriptions for, and let me tell you, my life is so much better. YouTube hurts people. It's only meant to harm others. I'm just messing. But yeah, watch a lot less YouTube. So I kind of want to wrap this up in a nice little bow by talking about Minecraft. What's Minecraft, Brandon? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Found out about it this morning. I've been watching the little documentation that there is of it. Minecraft is a monster catching game in line with the second generation of Pokemon, but it has a lot of Minecraft elements to it. And a lot of, oh my gosh, someone just slapped another 1,000. All right, calm down. Oh, it's going up. It's going. All right, I'm going to scroll this down because I can't watch that or I'm going to get distracted. It's kind of the combination of Minecraft and Pokemon, like where, all right, it's a monster battling game, but it's also a monster raising game. And what you have to do is you have to tame these monsters and then you increase their levels. But you have to build a farm for them. So that's where the Minecraft comes in. Minecraft is literally a working title for it. So that's how far it is in development. But you can see like the beginning of it and how the structure is, and it looks pretty cool. I don't know. I wanted to throw that in because I wanted a really good segue to talk about my Minecraft adventure yesterday. So yesterday, me and my good friend were playing some Minecraft. We had built up this little town. She lived in my house for the longest damn time, and finally she moved out yesterday. And as punishment, I break her windows whenever I run by. But so what happened was we built our town on top of this mountain, and then there's this big stairway I made that goes down into this little valley near a river where we built this farm. So we're self-sufficient. We can survive. So we noticed that there is, and let me throw this out there, that her and I, we've played Minecraft, but we haven't played Minecraft in years, like 3+. So there's a lot of crap that's in there that I didn't even know about. So, okay, Minecraft. We are on top of this mountain, and I never really pushed over this hill, just because we're so focused on building our mountain, and there's a giant mine that goes down into the mountain that we're on top of where we mine for everything. And there's also a down there's a mine shaft where we actually got a lot of our stuff. So the other day we stumbled across this town. Like, it's right over the ridge. We're like, oh my gosh, it's a town. So her and I wander over there with our Minecraft bodies, and we get there, and there's like 3 villagers in the whole town, and the town's empty, and there's way more buildings than there are villagers, which is weird. So then, this is just like, this sound, this event was more scary to me than any kind of horror game was, because I wasn't expecting it, right? And in games, like, when you're not expecting something like that, that's when it's the scariest. So, literally, I was not expecting this. I am just playing my game, and all of a sudden, I hear, and I can't even do it justice, so I'm actually going to play the clip right now. Okay, so you heard that sound. And I'm like, what is that? It's a conch. It's kind of terrifying. All of a sudden, these illagers, I guess they were called. No, pillagers. I'm sorry. Illagers are what they call the regular village people, and then pillagers are the ones that show up and attack. So they start ransacking this town, and we're not equipped to deal with this, so we get slaughtered every time. And eventually the raid ends on the town because everyone in the town is murdered. However, the town had pretty much a completed nether portal except for one block. So the town's just a shot right over the hill, so we can always get to it. But it was just like, oh no. We died so much. And it ended up to the point where I'm just like, you know what? They want the town. So I got some lava because I accidentally fell into a pit and there was lava under the town. I got buckets of lava and I just started burning the town down. Like, they want the town because the villagers were all killed. There was no way to save them. They have all been massacred. I was just like, all right, if they want this town, they can have it. So while the village is burning, all the people are dead, my friend and I like scavenge everything we can and run back home. And we add it to our homes and stuff. And we don't even know what half the stuff does, but it, and I think later today I'm going to go over there and raid for some more stuff because all the illagers murdered everyone. I don't think they're going to steal stuff. Maybe I'm wrong. As I said, I haven't played Minecraft in ages, so I couldn't tell you. So I wanted to jam that Minecraft story in at the very end of me talking about monster catching games and really focusing on Ova Magica. I recommend, if you're interested in that, check out the Kickstarter page, because I feel like we're at the point where AAA studios are going to keep letting us down and be burdened, and not even burdened. They do this on their own. They do this to themselves. They want that money because it's become an industry. It has not become a place full of passion and talent anymore. So I feel like the next direction to get good games is through Kickstarter, Indiegogo, whatever you use to, I don't know if anyone just heard my phone buzz. That's stupid. Sorry. It was telling me what the weather is outside. I'm like, yes, it's snowing. I'm aware of that. So what I was saying was these games I think are going to be, very passion-filled projects that we're going to want to invest our time in because we know they're good because the developer is doing this as a labor of love. It's a passion. So, with all that being said, check out Ova Magica. Be sure to support some kind of indie person if you're able to and have the funds. I hope you all are doing well, staying safe. I'll catch you in the next episode. Farewell. Okay, I'm going to go now. All right, now I'm leaving.